The original Pikmin proved to be enough of a hit on the GameCube that Nintendo decided to make a second game in 2004. Then in 2009, Nintendo decided to remake the sequel for their motion control system, but for some reason waited until 2012 to release that in the US. The story of Captain Olimar and his tiny alien helpers continues in Pikmin 2 for the Nintendo Wii. When Olimar returns home after the first game, he learns that the company which employs him has fallen on some hard times, leading to a large debt that remains even after assets are sold off or repossessed. But when the company's oldest ship discovers that junk from the alien world Olimar crashed on is actually worth a fortune, his boss sends him and co-worker Louie on a quest to return to the planet and gather enough treasures to pay off the debt and get the company back in business. It is an interesting story that does expand on the Pikmin universe, but obviously the stakes are lower here. Doing all this work to save your job in a crumbling company versus saving your life. I guess some will appreciate it being a less stressful treasure hunting game though. The visuals are fairly standard for the Wii. The art style remains the same to make you feel like a small explorer on a giant planet that's even more obviously Earth. If the barrage of sponsored treasure wasn't a clue. Pikmin 2, sponsored by Duracell.
The Copper Top Battery.
Otherwise, the graphics are a slight improvement over the GameCube, but most of the game looks and runs the same as the last game with a fairly consistent 30 frames per second. Sound-wise, this game is pretty similar to the first one. Same cartoony sound effects, similar musical score for a lighthearted world of mystery and adventure, and the voice acting is grunts and screams. There's just more of it because you're introduced to other members of Olimar's species, and the ship you use has its own AI voice that does most of the talking with its beeps and subtitles. The only thing I didn't like was the sound of the Pikmin humming every so often. Yeah, I know it's meant to be cute, but I couldn't help but find it irritating. The first thing I want to point out is that Pikmin 2 is actually the first game in the series to drop the 30-day time limit of the original. Even with your boss hounding you about getting enough money fast, you can actually take your time with this game, which, like I said with Pikmin 4, makes it way less stressful. There is still a time limit for each individual day, but that's fine, especially when you realize that Pikmin 2 also has sub-levels where time stands still as long as you're down there for some reason. There are a lot of treasures and bosses to fight in these sub-levels, so you'll be spending a lot of time underground. So thankfully the sub-levels have decent level designs with more variety than you might expect, like a maze made of vintage toy blocks. The above-ground levels are designed in a similar way to the first game with their more nature-focused designs, and they still have their obstacles that motivate you to find each type of Pikmin to solve the puzzles of this world. On that note, the fireproof red, waterproof swimming blue, and shockproof yellow Pikmin are all back in their full glory, but Pikmin 2 also introduces two new types of Pikmin, the white Pikmin and the purple Pikmin. White Pikmin can withstand poison gas clouds and poison enemies, but I found this out when one of them got eaten. Yeah, that's great. When they're chewed? So on top of the guilt from the first game, you want me to intentionally sacrifice my Pikmin? This game is dark, man! As for the purple Pikmin, they do move slower because of their hefty builds, but they're 10 times stronger than the rest of the Pikmin, which makes them very useful for moving heavier treasure when you simply don't have enough Pikmin. This increase in Pikmin types means an increase in obstacle types, which means more variety, building upon a positive aspect of the first game. Now, I could have sought out a copy of the GameCube version or rented the recent Switch version, which has the Switch Remastered HD version of Pikmin 1 with it, but I wanted to play the Wii version of Pikmin 2. Not just because the GameCube version is frankly too pricey to be worth buying these days as it goes for $70 on average, but mainly because I wanted to see for myself how this game played with the Wii Remote's pointer, and I have to say I liked it much better than the cursor in the original GameCube game. Since you move it around by pointing at the screen, it's much easier to move it anywhere that's on camera at a quick speed, even to somewhere far away, so I could see why Pikmin 3 on the Wii U included it as an option. A big change for Pikmin 2 is the introduction of two-player modes, the first and main one being the ability to play the story mode with the second player in co-op with the second player controlling Olimar's co-worker Louie. Louie has all the same abilities of movement and controlling Pikmin as Olimar. This allows you to divide up your Pikmin into squads so you can do more multitasking. Player 1 can be tackling some obstacle on one side of the map, while Player 2 is tackling another with his own Pikmin. Now, if you don't have a second person to play with, you can switch between Olimar and Louie just by pressing the minus button, much like switching between characters in Resident Evil 0. I finally realized how useful this can be when I needed to solve a puzzle based on weight. I had Olimar hold on to my red and white Pikmin ready to move forward when the platform lifted, then I had Louie off the platform throwing purple Pikmin onto the other block to raise Olimar's block up. So even without a second player, this mechanic is a good addition for strategy. This same type of co-op can also be utilized in the unlockable challenge mode, which is great because with challenge mode's own set of time limits and enemies, it's a lot harder to get high scores in this mode without a second player. Nintendo also included the first iteration of a 2-player competitive multiplayer mode, which is all about getting more points from gathered treasure than your opponent, even if that means stealing. It's awesome to see this here, and there's a good selection of arenas to compete on. It's just a shame that you can't have player 2 be controlled by a bot like in Pikmin 4. Pikmin 2 is a great improvement over the original game that offers more, and used copies of the Wii version are more reasonably priced than GameCube copies at an average of $30 to $50. But if you have a hard time finding the Wii version, the Switch remaster of this and Pikmin 1 is out there as one package for $50. You wouldn't get to use the pointer, but you'd have everything else good about this game. Either way, Pikmin 2 is a good sequel. And that's my review of Pikmin 2 for the Wii. If you're new here, please subscribe. I'm less than 200 subs away from 25,000! And to help me produce more videos like this, please support my Patreon page. Special thanks to my current patrons here. Paid members of my Patreon get their names in the credits and access to my main videos a day early. Also be sure to watch my previous reviews of the original Pikmin for the GameCube and Pikmin 4 for the Switch. See you all next time!